Good morning, church. We are so glad that you decided to join us this morning. Welcome to week 3 of In My Shoes. We are going to start our service off with some worship, but before we get into that, we are going to pray. So bow your heads with me. Let's pray. Lord, we love you so much and we thank you for this day. God, I pray that you just bless our time that we have together. God, I pray that our hearts would be open, Lord, to what you want to speak to us about today. Lord, we love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Seen what you can do, oh God of wonders. Your power has no end. Things you've done before, in greater measure, you will do again. 'Cause there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can't move, all things are possible. There's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save, all things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up, you can light it up, oh God of revival. Let hope arise, death is overcome, you've already won, oh God of revival.
You rose in victory, and now you're seated forever on the throne.
So why should my heart fear what you've defeated? And I will trust in you alone. 'Cause there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can't move, all things are possible. There's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save, all things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up, you can light it up, oh God of revival. Let hope arise, death is overcome, and you've already won, oh God of revival. The darkest night, you can light it up, you can light it up, oh God of revival. Let hope arise, death is overcome, you've already won, oh God of revival, oh God of revival.
God of revival.
God of revival. Come awaken your people, come awaken this city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble, I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Come awaken your people, come awaken your city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble, and I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Oh
Forever your kingdom reigns.
Wow, that was an incredible worship team. Thank you. Hey, we have a couple quick announcements that we want to go over with you this morning. First, we want to say thank you for your giving. It is because of your faithful generosity that we're able to do what we do as a church and continue to love on our community. Next, I want to encourage you to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We also want to encourage you to host watch parties at your house. Invite people over, watch the sermon together, love on each other, and just enjoy that time worshiping God together. Hey, speaking of, we're going to jump into our sermon. So why don't you sit back, relax, enjoy your coffee as we dive into this sermon today.
Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming in today and having a conversation with us. For those of our church community that don't know you guys, Junior and Sharon Sanchez, you guys have been a part of our church community for 33 years. 33 years. I'm 32. I'm just going to leave that there. So that is so crazy. You have the most amazing two boys, Ben and Jason, who are identical twins, and have just come up through our children's church and youth group, and still to this day are such a big part of our church community. And we just love your family dearly. Cannot say enough amazing stuff. Thank you guys so much for coming in today.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
To be here.
Thank you. And Emily Fruhoff, who we don't have enough time on here to go through all the accolades, but Emily, you're so amazing. You and your husband Dan are a huge part of our Patchogue campus, and thank you so much for coming in. Emily has worked in the field of special needs for 11 years now in so many different capacities, as well as starting some programs at different churches to be able to just be a ministry and encouragement to so many families who deal with these issues. And so we're just so grateful that you chose to come in today and share some wisdom with us. So before we get started, I know that I want to make one thing clear. I know that no two stories are exactly the same. And I know that in speaking about children who deal with special needs, there are varying degrees of functionality. And so on both ends of the spectrum, you have high functioning as well as not high functioning. And so we do want to make it clear this morning that we're sharing your story, and we're going to be getting your perspective and working with a lot of different families. But I just want to thank you guys for being transparent and vulnerable and kind of giving us a window into what your life has been like over the last 22 years. And so I'd love to just start off really quick and kind of just ask you guys to share a little bit of your story. And, I would imagine, I know for me, as a parent, you never really picture your child having any kind of difficulties, whether that's special needs, whether it's a health issue or anything. You kind of just picture your children coming out completely healthy and not having any challenges. And so what was it like after having these beautiful twin baby boys? What was the journey like when you started to begin that maybe there was something that wasn't completely typical with Jason?
Well, for us, because we have identical twins, Benjamin and Jason, that was a godsend because we were able to really pick up on what Ben was doing and what Jason wasn't doing. So we noticed pretty much, plus I have to start, the boys were born very, very tiny. Jason was 4 pounds, 2 ounces.
Wow.
Benjamin was 3 pounds, 6 ounces. So they were really tiny babies. They were in the, NICU for 2 weeks. And then they came out with just being so severely developmentally delayed to begin with that we had a whole team of, we saw a developmental pediatrician, and we had early intervention because they were so tiny, we needed all the help just to get them, on task with the milestones that you needed to have as a growing baby. So with that, we were able to say, wow, Benny's doing this, and Jason's not. So by 6 months, I kind of had I could tell that there wasn't any, Ben, something wasn't right in my gut. I could see it too. And then all of a sudden I would just be going, standing in the line of grocery stores, and I would see all these articles on autism. Everywhere I went, the guy was just bringing it to my attention, and I just was like, wow, let me just read this one. And took it home, and it was Time Magazine, and I was like, this is, they gave you, a whole list of things to look for if your child had autism. I was like, check. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, maybe this is what Jason has. And then sure enough, we had an early intervention team come to the house. They were doing all kinds of special education training for us and all kinds of, speech, pt.3, and they were like, the team had already flagged him as possibly having a developmental delay of some sort. And when I went to my time to see my pediatrician, the developmental pediatrician, she was like, I brought it to her attention. I was like, hey, a little concerned with Jay. And she was like, oh my gosh, the team just red flagged him, but I wasn't ready to call you yet.
Wow.
But because you brought it to my attention, we can talk. Let's start the
Wow.
conversation. So with that, she's like, you need to do 1, 2, 3. Let's bring him in to a person, Dr. Pomeroy, who was specifically really the doctor to diagnose back in the day of 21 years ago. So we took him, and sure enough, he was like, yes, Jason is full-blown autism. In fact, he told us that Jason was severely autistic at the time, and which killed us, killed me right there. And he just said that Jason will not have a life, that be prepared to put him into places of schooling and institutions that are going to be able to help him live. And I just walked out of that office, and I was like, nope, not Jay. That's not going to, we're just going to do all we can with him, right, honey? And we just kept on, I went back to school. I went to all kinds of workshops and education and just learn everything I could. And that's how our process started with him. Just, with him, Jason was, I thought he was deaf because he was the type of kid that just was like rocking and in his, doing things, and just, you couldn't get his attention. And I literally thought he was deaf. I would take pots and pans and bang them behind him, no reaction, nothing. So that's how I started. I'm like, okay, he must be deaf, on top of everything else. And so we had to rule all that medical out, and then that's when they finally, I saw the severity of his autism. It was where we couldn't do anything with him. There was nothing there, nothing. So
Jason was about 12 months when you got the official.
He was 12 months old when we finally took him to the developmental pediatrician. There was a little bit of a waiting to see Dr. Pomeroy. By the time we saw Dr. Pomeroy, I think it was like 15 months old. And then he was connected to a wonderful agency called DDI, and we were able to and there was a waiting list for DDI, and we were able to get him in at 18 months old.
Wow.
We were able to get him into DDI, and it was amazing. They were a phenomenal group of people who just embraced us, who really put things in perspective for us, and told us part of being at DDI, we had to sign a contract with them saying that we were going to be very involved parents. Like, they wanted, you had to learn, because what they do at DDI is they focus on ABA, which is really important, which is applied behavior analysis, which is a phenomenal therapy for children who have autism.
Okay.
But they would only do he would go every day for 4 hours on a bus.
Wow.
He would be gone.
At 18 months old.
18 months old.
Wow.
I would put him on a bus, and they would take him, and 4 hours a day, and then they would drop him off, and then my job as a parent was to continue, because technically they only did 20 hours, and the ideal amount of ABA was 40. So I just learned it. I went to school, learned how to do ABA, and I was on the floor doing ABA with my son, getting him to do all kinds of things when he was home. So this was our lives, every day, all day, just being with Jay, trying to teach him how to function, how to get out of his mindset that he had, because that's something with autism. if you don't get them out of what their mind is, doing with them, which is constantly, it's amazing, like all kinds of things that they are thinking and they're trying to adapt our world in their minds. And if you don't get them out of that to say, hey, you can do it, do it this way, this is what we do. And he just adhered to that. Like he just took off. ABA was just phenomenal for him. And he didn't speak. He didn't have any kinds of, we had Ben who was speaking and doing all kinds of things, and we had Jay who just wasn't. So we had speech come in, and they taught us how to do PECS, and which is the Picture Exchange Communication System. And oh my gosh, Jason became the PECS king. He just soared. He soared with all these different things, and yeah, that was our journey. It was very intense because we couldn't, we had to just get him out of that little block of, little box he put himself in. We needed to get him out.
Yeah. Let me just say, it is so inspiring to sit here and to hear, you're such an incredible mom, to have a doctor pretty much tell you there's no hope, and for your attitude to be, no, not for my kid. And then to go to school and to learn that on your own. And I mean, that is super inspiring and so powerful. You're such a good mom. Junior, what was that process like of getting that news? I mean, I'm sure even as a dad, your goal is always to protect your family, be there for your family, watch over your family. And as a guy, we always want to be in control. And for something to happen that's so outside of your control, what was that process like receiving that news?
It was rough, putting your 18-month-old on a bus is, a lot of people, they stress over putting their 5-year-old to go to kindergarten. 18 months, I was just like, how can you be putting our 18-month-old on a bus to drive to Riverhead, So it was definitely a rough thing. And yet people are always asking, how are your kids? And it was like, how do you say that one is okay and then the other one has special needs and they're identical? So that was a thing I struggled with also. It was,
Yeah.
But you had to do what you had to, to do and be there with them.
Mm-hmm. So right from that point, I know you just shed a little bit of light on the steps that you guys took, but how did that affect life as you knew it, from everything from grocery shopping to running errands to wanting a date night to going to movies to going to birthday parties to going to church? I mean, how did this news really just affect all of that?
We didn't. We didn't do a lot of things. We haven't gone on a date night for, in the beginning ever. We didn't take them to movies. We didn't take them to the restaurant. We didn't go anywhere. And it's just with Jason, first because we had twins. I mean, I'm sure families can relate. You have
Right.
two little, you have twins,
Right.
two little guys who were developmentally delayed to begin with. And then at 12 months, bam, you have a child who has autism who can't even handle being in a car ride sometimes. And so we just didn't do it. It just wasn't fun. So we just said, nope, we're just going to stay home. And we did a lot of take-in. And we
He eats only certain things, so you just can't go
Yeah.
to a place and he didn't, you just can't go to McDonald's and order
Yeah.
chicken nuggets because he didn't eat chicken nuggets.
Right.
So
I
it
had
was
to
lot of-
prepare all his
lot-
food and bring it with us if we
Wow.
did go. Jason was, thank you God, he loved traveling in the car, but I have to attribute to Junior because Jason, children with autism need structure. They like everything to be the same. They don't like routine to change. They don't like, they have a lot of sensory issues. So we would take him into the car and Junior would just go a different way. And Jason would be kicking and screaming and crying in the car. But Junior would be like, nope, change. This is what we do. We're going a different way. And he would just do it on purpose because Jason needed to learn in life things change. And
Right.
he didn't, be banging on the side of the window, and he would just be rocking real intense and kicking, and we're like, nope, it's good. And then we would, we would ward him. It's, we would take him, okay, you did awesome, Jay. We're gonna, we would give him, whatever candy he would like, or whatever food he would love, or he would love to be on the computer, or at that point we had videos that he loved to watch, train videos, and he would be able to sit a certain amount of time on the, watching the TV show, and that's how he learned that if you do something that, that's change, you're going to be rewarded, which is what EBA is about, positive reinforcement of bringing, awesome job, Jason, awesome job, positive. And Junior, if you want to talk about, Jason needs sensory thing, and every day he would come home from work and want to share about what you used to do.
I would grab him, wrap him in the blanket like a cocoon, and hug him, and
really
do
tight.
things like that. One thing was I had to sing to them every night before they go to bed, and they wouldn't go to sleep until I actually went and sang.
Wow.
The sun will come out tomorrow. So that was something I had to do every single night. And if I sang the words wrong, then they should correct me.
Before we end, I'd love to have a rendition of that on camera if we could add that to the interview.
We'll all sing it together.
So,
Yeah.
again, it's so just inspiring. You guys are such incredible parents that, just what needs to be done, we're going to do. Because we love our
And
kids.
it wasn't easy too. It was he went through a stage where if there was applause, that he would flip out. So like if you're at church and, have a big round of applause for whatever reason, he would actually just go ballistic and begin to cry. So there were sometimes we'd actually have to take him outside to calm him down and then go back inside. Like people don't even realize the things in the background.
Right.
What we did.
We would be at a birthday party, or even their own birthday. We blow out the candles, everyone applauded, he'd flip out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't,
Yeah.
a lot
I
of
would-
people don't even realize that the things that we had to,
Right.
sensory things.
I would imagine that it just begins to feel like your world is so small, like isolating, because there are different things everywhere you go, from getting food to being at church, to a birthday party, or I could only imagine how isolated you start to feel after a little while with that.
But you know what? We were coming to Lamb Chapel, the Harbor, for years, and our kids were raised at the Harbor, raised at church. So we just did it every Sunday. There was no reason why you weren't going. Like you were going. So we just learned. Like I had a double stroller, and we would be in the back, and we would rock Jay because he needed to be soothed, and I would be in the back. Everybody knew there's Sharon in the back. And then he learned. And we would sit in the parking lot, and we would just discuss. These are the rules. These are my rules. You will do this, this, and this. These are the rules, Jay. And I would have a little strip of smiley faces. I have a wonderful teacher who gave me this little strip of smiley faces. And he had to learn, if he earned all his smiley faces, he would get something that he liked when he got home. So it was, I would just say, I'm going to get the smiley faces, you're doing awesome. So it was constantly reinforced. Like people don't even realize, all I had to do was just take it out, and he would be like,
Wow.
okay, I have to do this. But we had to sit in the car, okay, Jay, we're in church.
Yeah.
This is what we do. These are my expectations.
Yeah.
You know them, and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And he, sometimes I had to take him back out, bring him back in, and we would have a conversation. Jay, take your time. If you need to do this, we're going to be outside, and we're going to do it out here, but we're going back in. And we just kept on doing that, and he learned it, because he says, all right, mom's got to do this, because Mom's not gonna let me. Mom's not gonna let me do.
Yeah.
So, and then, thank God Benny was able to do his own thing, and we made sure Benny had his time. That Jason did children's church to a certain point, and then Benny needed to have his life too. Like we made sure he was. We didn't take Jason to youth group because Ben needed to be in youth group by himself. I didn't want him to be associated or I wanted him to say, Ben, you need to, this is who you are.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about your brother. Mom has him. But you need to go to youth group. You're doing, all this stuff. So, and then we did things with Jason on his own. Why Benny was at youth group, because it wasn't appropriate for Jason to go to youth group at that time. So we just did things gradually, step by step. And that's how we And then getting back to what we, date nights, we thank God, unfortunately we had an incident with Benjamin. He got really sick and it was horrible. And I had a really good group of friends that set us up with all kinds of paperwork from the state to get what they call respite. And respite came in, and that was how we were able to get out. It was
Wow, that's
where
awesome.
we paid her, and she came in, took care, she knew our kids from the DDI program, and she would watch Ben and Jay, and we finally were able to, that's the only way, and that happened when Benjamin was 3. So just at 3 years old, we were starting
You went years without.
Plus my husband was a DJ, so I would be by myself, so I would go out with friends, or we would go out, just to the movies, or we would go out with, and it wasn't for that. Like, there's so many wonderful programs out there that the state has that you have to just tap into. And but because of what happened with Benny, thank you God, I had people like, they just filled all the papers. Sharon, just sign, and they did it for me because we were at such a state at that point where Benny was ill. We had a child who had autism.
Must have been so overwhelming.
And then Benjamin was in the hospital, almost dying for 2 weeks. It was like, I didn't even want
The
to,
first 3 years.
oh my gosh,
You know
it
what-
was unbelievably, to have a son who has autism, who couldn't even function, and his brother is now in the hospital. Jason couldn't even function. He would go in and out of every door looking for his brother. They slept in the same room. So we had that whole transition, and oh my gosh, it was so overwhelmingly, but.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone watching this is thinking the same thing, just what we take for granted. Being able to go to church, drop your kids off at kids' church, and then come in and be able to sit and get to listen and be engaged with the service, or running through a drive-through with your kids, attending a birthday party, all the things that you don't think of, or the things that you just take for granted, that in so many instances you guys are having to pre-plan and plan and prep, and while you're there it's such a different way of needing to do life, such an adjustment. Emily, I want to ask you, I don't even know how many students are represented over your 11 years, and also too with what you've done with churches. I know you've had a ton of experience with different families, and with that, varying degrees of functionality with students. What have you seen as families have tried to begin to adjust to getting a diagnosis of their child having special needs, and some of these impacts that those families have felt?
Yeah, I think a big thing that I didn't think about until I was talking with parents and families is the grieving process that a lot of families go through when you're first getting a diagnosis. So, I'm not a mom, but I would imagine, and just in my conversations, you get pregnant and you start thinking about the life that your child's gonna have, and these are all my visions for them, and we're gonna play baseball, and I'm gonna be their little league coach, and we're gonna go do this, and oh my gosh, I love cars, and then we're gonna go to Disney, and I'm gonna show them this ride, and we're gonna do this, and my favorite movie, and oh, my dad did this with me, so I wanna do this with my son, and then one day when he gets married, oh, I can't wait to meet his future wife, and what the wedding's gonna be like, and ooh, then I can't wait for when my kids are old enough to get kicked out of the house, and now we have our own life, just us together again. And then you get the diagnosis, whatever it is, and it all kind of just stops. You don't know what your life is going to look like, and especially, in your experience when someone's saying severe autism and we don't know what type of life he's going to have, and that grieving process or that thought process doesn't just end.
Right.
With every missed milestone, with every date you can't go on, with every missed invitation to a birthday party because your child's a little bit different, every time you have to walk out of a church service, or you try and go into a restaurant and people are staring, it's a constant thing to process through. And even with varying degrees of autism or of various disabilities, I find that, every time a parent is faced with that, it's just another gut punch in a way.
Exactly.
And when you don't have a community of people, these things are very isolating. So you're potentially not going to birthday parties or to the movies or to a big park or an event, or like you guys shared, okay, there's going to be a lot of applause at this. Do we want to think twice about going? Nope, we're going to work through it. All those thought processes.
Right.
So then you're just alone. You're alone, and you can't connect with your community the way that you want to. And I've had conversations with parents who tried to go to church, and they would try and drop their kid off at Sunday school or whatever kids program, and then the teacher or, you know, the worker or the volunteer would say, oh, like, I'm sorry, we couldn't really handle your, you know, your child, like, I apologize. So then you're like, all right, like, I'll bring my child in with me to service. So you bring your child with you to service, and then maybe they, you know, are going through a few things, making a little bit of noise, they're not sitting perfectly still, they're being distracting to other people. So then an usher comes and like taps you on the shoulder and says, oh, I'm sorry, like your child, you know, would you mind stepping out into the lobby? So you haven't been kicked out of church, but it's also been made very clear that there's no place for you here. So what kind of message does that send a family when the people in the community that are supposed to accept you the most and that are supposed to be there have inadvertently told you, like, yes, but we don't know how to handle this and we're not sure how, so we're just gonna not do it. And I've met so many parents who have experienced that, and then how much that's impacted their pursuit of the Lord, because it's like, well, you didn't make a place for my child, and it wasn't their fault, and it's not our fault, and this is what we're going through. So it's
heartbreaking.
I think the grieving process, and I don't want to, you know, overgeneralize, but I would imagine that as, I mean, I know the boys are now, you said 21, but the thoughts that come in just throughout the progression of their life, it doesn't just all of a sudden, oh, well, we've made it through, it's the easy part now. So it's a lot, and it can be very isolating.
Now, a testament to all of your guys' hard work and going back to school and everything that you've done, even in getting such a bleak diagnosis from this doctor, Jason has made incredible progress. And so I want to ask you, over the years, as Jason has progressed through school and has learned, how his life slowly changed for you guys, and what his life look like now that Jason is 21, Jason and Ben are 21, how his life slowly began to adjust as Jason has grown.
Wow, that's a good question. Jason has just gone from being not able to really talk too much when he was first diagnosed. He didn't start talking until kindergarten. And now his communication skills are unbelievable. And he is just blown us all out of the water with how smart and intelligent he is. He has his own goals. He wanted to graduate with a diploma. He studied.
So amazing.
He, you know, of course, with all our help and being in a 1201 classroom at the high school, and teachers, phenomenal teachers, he just really just all of a sudden blossomed. Like a window opened, and he is now so much more, you know, he's always going to have autism. You're always going to be able to see him and say, oh, yep, there's something a little odd with that guy, but he has come such a long way where he's able to really express himself. He is a rule follower. Thank you, God. He knows the rules and expectations, and if you lay them out for him, he will follow them. And he will, you know, we had to really test those waters because we weren't sure. You take him into the supermarket and, you know, we hid. We're like, okay, let's see what Jason's going to do. Let's see. And he would, you know, he would stop and look around and say, Mom, you know, like he knows now. Now he knows safety. He knows the rules. Like he would just, you know, we tell him this is who you find. But it really opened up how to communicate. Communication is a key with Jay, where you have to tell him, okay, this is what you do, you know. And then also the iPhone is a wonderful thing too, because now he knows. Just tap on the phone. I can call Mom or Dad if I need them. Or
if you text him, he'll actually text you back and everything.
That's so awesome.
Technology has unbelievable, has been fantastic with helping him really come to the next level of what he needs to do, how to answer. If he doesn't know how to answer, he'll look it up. This is how I'm supposed to answer you. This is what they're talking about. And so he's just amazing right now. I mean, he still likes to rock. He will always be who he is. You'll see him in church. Jason's the one that likes to rock in his pew. But let me tell you, he listens to every single sermon, and he can tell you it when he gets home. If I don't go to church, who spoke what scripture? Oh, let me tell you. He will tell me exactly what Pastor Mike spoke, what you spoke, and you know, he
He's
loves the
always
Lord,
listening.
and he is amazing. Like, so he has just become a joy,
So
a joy.
awesome.
But you know what we put into him
Yeah.
is we're seeing it.
The fruit of it,
We're-
yeah.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
seeing that fruit of our labor from all the intense.
Yeah.
And now we can be more natural with him. And, you know, of course, there's always that conversation. Still to this day, I'm like, okay, we're going here. What do you need? What are the expectations
Yeah.
for what you need to be doing right now?
Right.
And he would be like, okay, you know, like he needs to hear that. Otherwise, you know, he doesn't
Yeah.
know what to do. Like
Right.
sometimes there's situations that he doesn't know what to do.
Right.
You know, he still has sensory issues when somebody's wearing a football jersey. He loves to go up and I'm like, Jay. So now we got him a little square. We put it in his pocket. You put your hand in your pocket
You guys
and you
are amazing.
feel it in his
Amazing.
pocket. So, because I was like, there's times I'm like, oh my gosh, you could be mortified. Like, oh my gosh, Jay, no. But that's who he is. You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't
Yeah.
know boundaries. He doesn't
Yeah.
know personal space. Still, he has a hard time with it. He's getting better. But but that is I mean, he's just,
He's such a special kid.
gosh.
He really, he's not a kid anymore. Such a special guy.
I mean, he's just so smart. I mean, he
Yeah.
knows politics. He knows he can go and spin them. Like he can just go up there and say, "Yeah, well, let me show you the other side." Like he is amazing. He loves history. He loves trains. He loves so many things that are just like, wow, Jay. We go to him. Even Ben will go to him. Jay, what's happening with this? Jason will come out. Like, okay, I'll tell you. Like, we all go to
So
him. He's
awesome.
like our encyclopedia, because he knows so much.
Yeah. So
that
smart.
It's different compartments, and
Yeah.
he just,
It's incredible.
it's amazing.
It really is.
It's amazing.
Junior, I want to ask you, I know you guys had mentioned some of the state-funded or state-run programs that really helped you guys out. Did you guys feel like personally you had a good support system, whether it be friends or family or church or any of that, or no? If you did, how important was that? If you didn't, how much would that have helped?
I think, yeah, well, as far as like family, he was the first one that we were in uncharted territory, so with the family, everyone helped out as much as they could. The state funded was a help because you could actually begin to do things and function. We have always had support from people.
Yeah. I think
So-
that our family was phenomenal. And I think that that's basically, because we didn't go anywhere really. So
Yeah.
we had family. Our family were our babysitters if we didn't have the respite care person. I have all my sisters and sister-in-laws are teachers. They're all in special education. I
Wow.
mean, it's just amazing. And my one sister-in-law, Jill, she's amazing. She's an autism specialist. So it's like
That's
just
incredible.
things like, yeah. I mean, I have it. They all knew. My one sister Kelly, she was like, okay, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And with the school, like she
Yeah.
helped me get in there. And I just went to support groups. I cannot go without saying how important as a mom to go to support groups, because it humbles you. It gets you out of that poor me mentality, where you see what other people have. I know people who have triplets who have autism, and they are so severe still to this day. I know people who have children with Down syndrome and other disabilities, and when you go to a support group, your eyes are open to say, wow, okay, we don't have it that bad.
That bad, yeah.
Yeah. And you also learn to network. Networking is amazing, amazing, amazing. You learn, wow, tell me how you did this. And okay, let me show you what I did. That was instrumental for me. That helped me learn how to do social skills. And, I had to do scheduling where, this is how you brush your teeth, Jay. We had little Velcro strips on steps on how to do things. That was all learned through friends, and social little books that, told you social stories on how to, okay, we're going to go to church today. This is what we're going to go. This is what you expect when you go to the doctor's office. This is what you expect when you go to the movies. So, and then just the church. I mean, the church has been, for us, such a support for us in all that we have done with both our children. But with JJ, it's like his second home. He loves Pastor Mike like he's a second father. He loves you. He loves Pastor Ben, everybody. He just seeks you guys out. And he knows, yeah, there's certain people.
knows everybody's name.
Yes,
Yeah.
he knows there's certain people
Knows
he knows
everybody.
that he can go up to, and people embrace him and hug him and just welcome him. And we're so thankful for that because, you know, he wants to go. He's a greeter. Jason greets on Sunday mornings. That blows my mind. A kid who couldn't
And-
speak.
And
is
we
a
have to
greeter.
be to church on time.
Yes.
That's one of the things, it's like if
You can't be
we're
late.
running late to church and we get
Yeah.
there 1 minute late, even at this age, he gets very upset. It's, that's part of the
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah, yeah,
He'll be at home and be like, come on, let's go.
yeah.
It's a miracle.
But he loves it, and, but again, I just can stress just support groups and just getting a group of people who are gonna raise you up and understand that you need, like, make sure Sharon has, Jason, make sure everybody knows, like, we're gonna keep an eye on him as well,
Yeah.
Sharon, so
Yeah.
you can go swimming, we got him, you can go to the bathroom, we got him, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
different things like that, and it's so important to have that team of
That
people
support
around you
system.
who you can trust.
Yeah.
And who knows him and he feels comfortable with, that's the key.
Right.
He has to be comfortable with them, and so we're thankful. Very
That's awesome.
thankful.
Emily, what do you see? What role do you see that individuals who know somebody, a family like this, who knows what stage of the process they're in, whether early or it's been like this for a while? What role do you see that individuals and even the church can play to be a support system to families that are going through this?
Yeah. I think what I'm going to say sounds really basic, but it's so important. And just loving and accepting the child. And I feel like that sounds silly because I feel like everyone's like, well, duh, like, it's a child. But it's true. Like, loving and accepting the child and the family, welcoming them to every event, like, don't put up this wall in your head, oh, well, maybe, no, invite them, bring them, talk to the parent. Okay, hey, these are the snacks that we're going to be having at the birthday party. Is there something different that we can provide for your child? Or, oh, we're going to sing happy birthday at this time. I know your child doesn't really like that. Like, do you want to have him step out for a quick second? Like, just embracing the child and celebrating every little thing. I think that sometimes the mentality is, and I say this with the utmost respect, like, to feel sorry or to have pity or to, dwell in that mindset instead of, no, I'm going to champion this with you. We're going to celebrate, oh my gosh, he learned a new word today. That's incredible. Oh my gosh, he got 3 smiley faces this week and last week he only got 2. What can I, oh, okay, what's his reinforcer? What are you going to be giving him? Can I buy his toy car for next week?
That's awesome.
Just championing with
Absolutely,
them
yeah.
through everything, and that inclusivity and that community and that support. And I mean, you guys are absolutely incredible in the ways that you have just pursued knowledge and education and understanding for your boys. And there are so many people who cannot take that first step. Like, they are just so stuck and so hurt and so frustrated, and the hand that they've been dealt is not what they expected. And just don't stop loving on those people. It's so important to embrace them in your community in every way possible, within the walls of the church or outside of the walls of the church. It doesn't stop, and it's a continued process. And even honestly starting to educate yourselves as an individual. Like, if you think about a regular conversation. All right, he's a DJ. All right, so I know there's certain topics that maybe we could talk about that would connect us. Okay, so Jason, what are things that Jason likes? Okay, he likes trains, he likes history. So I'm going to come in on a Sunday knowing, like, ooh, I saw this in the newspaper about this new train or something, or this about history, and try and engage him in that conversation.
That's
Like,
great.
do
That's
the
great
work
advice.
to be a friend and
Yeah.
to be an advocate and to be a community member with the family.
That's so good.
I think it's
Absolutely.
just it's important to just love and accept and to just pour and pour and pour yourself out.
That's definitely
So
key.
great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. As we wrap up today, I want to ask you a few just rapid fire questions, and for you to just give a short, just window of hope and into some of these questions. So, first question I would like to ask you. There's someone who's watching this here today who has recently gotten a diagnosis, maybe similar to the one that you guys got, that is feeling hopeless, is feeling discouraged, is grieving, is heartbroken. What encouragement would you give that person as somebody who decided this will not be for my child? What advice would you give a family like that who's watching this morning?
Wow. I would say there's hope. There's absolutely hope in every child. Focus on the ability and not the disability.
Yeah.
Because they are so capable of doing so many things. It may take a while. Look, my situation was Jason was diagnosed as fully, severely, have autism, severe autism, and he's totally high functioning, doing great. But it's time, and it's patience, and it's never giving up. It is learning what you need to do for your child and going for it and not giving up. And it's a process, but there's always hope in every situation.
So good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are some things that you would say that you've learned from your students?
I feel like that's loaded. Honestly, I think just the way that we view the world, the way that these kids view the world, it makes sense. It makes so much sense. I had a student once, I was teaching him to say thank you to the cafeteria worker when he would pick up his lunch tray. So every day we'd pick up his lunch tray, and I didn't realize, but I would point to the cafeteria worker as the prompt and say thank you, and go through thank you. And then one day he had his lunch tray, and then he balanced it on one hand and was like, thank you, and pointed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been teaching him that this whole time. But it makes sense. Their thought process, their world is a beautiful, beautiful place. And we so often try and just adapt them into our world without understanding theirs. And I think that that's important. There's validity and truth to where they are in their space, and it's important to just to dive into that a little bit as well. So they've taught me just to think differently, to value them, to look at teaching and education differently. Compassion, patience, so many things, but the way that they view the world is so pure and so beautiful, and I think we could all use a lot more of that.
That's exactly right.
I'd like to ask both of you guys, what are some things that you've learned from Jason?
Wow. Jason is loving, compassionate, intelligent. He's taught us how to communicate, explain things, and he will learn them. He's taught us that he wants to be loved. He's a lovable kid, and he loves to be around people. And to just keep, all he wants to do is be accepted and be among people. He may be in the background, looking around, but he hears. And Jason you may think he's not listening when he's walking back and forth in the back of the church, but he can tell you exactly what each conversation is, what you're wearing. Now he knows, he can tell you when somebody's sad, when somebody's happy, and he wants to learn.
He's a sponge.
He
absorbs everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's just taught us how to love. Unbelievable.
He really is such a special guy. Such a special guy. I'd like to end with one more question for each of you guys. You have a personal relationship with Jesus. I know your faith is of the utmost priority to you. As Jesus followers, as people who have a relationship with Jesus, how do you see that that we're called to reflect his heart towards not just the child, but also the families who are going through this? How has your faith in your personal walk with the Lord helped empower you and enable you to love like He would want you to love?
You know, the Bible talks about like the least of these, and I think that a lot of our first thoughts is, you know, the poor, the homeless, you know, veterans, that sort of thing. And I think that this has challenged me to look at this wonderful people group, you know, and these families, and see how they've often been pushed aside or cast aside or not thought of or not included. And the, you know, the compassion that has just been built throughout the more that I've learned, the more interactions I've had with families, with children. I mean, you know, I can't imagine God's heart for these kids and what kind of relationship they have in whatever way that it is, you know, with God. And if we could just like be people that foster that and that build into that, and if in whatever way possible we're able to show a small piece of that love in a tangible way, like that is just, it's just so huge and so important. And I just, like I said, I can't imagine God's heart for these kids. I really can't. I can't imagine His heart for these kids, and then in turn what we are now, you know, equipped with and what we're tasked to then do.
Yeah.
And I think it's just as important of a calling in our Christian walks as anything else. The way that we're like loving and compassionate and just pouring ourselves out on these families. And I sometimes feel like, and not to overgeneralize, but I sometimes feel like, you know, we think about parts of the world where maybe the gospel hasn't reached yet. And yet there's a community of people in our community that might physically be unable to get to church, that might not be able to, you know, have their kids get in the car with them to come here, that might not be able to turn on a laptop or an iPad to watch someone speak because their child is so used to watching something else on there. You know, with distance learning right now, I've had students who aren't able to access their education because they're very confused as to why my teacher's on a screen. So imagine that for church. Well, my pastor's on a screen now. What do you mean? Why is he there? And just all of that. And it's a people group that are right here, that we are, you know, that we should feel empowered and should be striving to reach. And I think that it's a powerful charge and a powerful responsibility that God has given us to do that. And you know, it's an honor, I think, for each of us to even be having this conversation, but that compassion and that drive to like, these are families, these are people that need to be reached. And instead of looking at the way that they're communicating, let's look at the way that we're communicating to them. All right, if he's not understanding it in this way, how can I express God's love in a way that's going to be tangible to them? It's a powerful charge and it's a big responsibility, but I think that that's what God calls us to do.
Absolutely. And I'd love to just close out this morning by just asking you guys how important, how integral, how vital has your personal relationship with God been throughout this journey?
Well, I think that for us, just God has just been with us through the whole entire process. Just even trying to even conceive, having the twins, having Jason diagnosed, and then being all these different doors were just open. That was totally God. God has been there for us for the beginning. I think that in our lives, I don't think our marriage would have held up without it. Divorce is so prevalent in families with disabilities. I think that, I think us going to church every Sunday, and having him being included, having him being embraced and loved, that's just so important. And I think that that's what it's all about, like what you were saying, like people need to know that they'll be accepted. Come, we have a place. What can we do to help you? That's always the key too. Like people always say, Sharon, what can we do? What can we do to help Jay? You know, we're gonna do this. So, you know, just God has just been with us and has helped sustain Jason. He loves the Lord. He loves church. He's just a precious little guy that God made him. And we could all see his point of view.
Yeah.
He had that child mind, like
Yeah.
the simplicity of saying he knows scripture, he takes it and he challenges us with it. Like we'll be doing something and be like, this is what the scripture says. I'm like, yes, it does, Jay. And we'd be like, thank you for that, hon. Like he just
So
gives
awesome.
us a whole different perspective. Even Benny, like he does the same thing. Like like
Yeah.
he would always challenge me, but the scripture says this, and I'm like, yep. And Jason's learned that through
Right.
both of my, with Benny as well. Like he just knows that it's okay. God is I'm so thankful that he has that now too. That he has that I'm gonna be okay because God has me too. Like he has a peace.
Yeah.
He has a peace in his heart. It's so real, and I wish we could all see things through his eyes.
Yeah.
Because he's black and white. He's like, no, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm like, wow, Jay. So it's
awesome.
I'm thankful for him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change him for the world.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, I just want to thank you guys, all three of you, for coming in and sharing a story that is so personal to you. And I believe I can speak for everybody to say that it's so inspiring to hear your guys' story, hear how you've handled it, to see the miracle that Jason and Ben both are. And just to reiterate, you guys are such a blessing to our community, not just as members of a church, but as friends and as family. And we love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for coming in this morning.
Absolutely, you're welcome. It's great.
Well, church, thank you for joining us this morning. We hope that you are being impacted by this summer series, and we hope that you choose to spend next Sunday with us as we dive into week 4 of our summer series, In My Shoes. We hope you have a great week.